What's up, champs? In this video, I'm gonna share simple ways that you can make dieting easier so that you can drop body fat. And these are also ways that are gonna help you save time, money, and save a whole lot of frustration and headache when you're trying to drop body fat. And before we dive in, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. Let's get to the action. Number one, eat more to lose more. Because I know that might sound crazy because when it comes to dropping body fat, you have to eat less, right? Well, the thing is, if you want to drop body fat, you want to lose weight, yes, it is true, you have to eat less than what's required for you to maintain your current weight. But what I'm talking about is you don't have to eat 6, 7 small little itty bitty meals every day. Back when I was trying to get in shape, I wanted to get my abs ripped. And you know, I kept hearing trainers say you gotta eat 6 to 7 small meals to keep your metabolism high. And so I did that, you know, but I found myself getting tired of cooking all day. I got tired of just that redundant process, eating chicken and broccoli, eating beef and Brussels sprouts or whatever I was eating back then. And I was like, man, why can't I just eat bigger meals and so that I'm able to stay satisfied for longer? And I came to realize you can do that. As long as you don't go over your daily amount of calories on a daily basis to drop body fat, you can eat less meals. So let's say, for example, I need to eat 1,500 calories on a daily basis to stay lean and shredded. I don't have to divide that 1,500 into 6 to 7 meals throughout the day. I could eat 3 meals. All 3 meals could be 500 calories each. And that's just a simple way of doing it. But I'm able to eat bigger meals, guys, and it simplifies my day. And when it comes to dropping body fat, less is more. And so what I mean by that is, if you're having to focus on 6, 7 small, tiny meals, it's a lot going on right there. And it's a lot easier to overeat when you're eating so many meals. But when you're able to just focus on 3, maybe 4 meals a day, 1, eating those big meals are gonna keep you satisfied for longer. 2, you can basically plan out those meals a lot easier. It's easier to plan out for 3 meals versus 6 or 7 meals. And so this is something that helped me a lot when it came to being able to drop body fat and keep it off long term, because I'm not having to think about food and tracking food all day like a lot of other people who tend to have to eat 6 to 7 meals a day. And one of my biggest things is just not feeling hungry all the time. And that was one of the big things I used to run into when I eat these small 6, 7 meals a day. I just never was satisfied. And so I love being able to eat, you know, 3 to 4 bigger meals. And on the weekends, if I'm kicking back and I'm eating a pizza, a burger, or some tacos or something, I might only eat 2 big meals. And so those meals are even bigger. So it's a way to actually enjoy eating good food and just simplifying your life, so you're not having to, you know, your life isn't revolved around what are you gonna eat for that next meal, and you gotta add all those meals up over the course of a day. And not only that, if you're in that point of your journey where you're still tracking your meals, you're tracking your calories, you're tracking your macros because you really wanna get a good understanding on all that stuff, man, it's way easier just to track 3 or 4 meals than it is to track 6 to 7 meals. Who wants to keep going inside of MyFitnessPal or any of these other apps, having to keep tracking, hey, I'm eating this chicken, I'm eating this much amount of chicken, I'm eating this much amount of vegetables, I'm eating this much amount of carbs. It's a lot, guys. And so simplify the process by just eating less and you'll get better results. Number 2, figure out your winning 3. This is actually a tip I put inside of my Gut to Abs book. And it all revolves around knowing what are gonna be your go-tos. On a daily and weekly basis, we just about eat the same foods on a daily and weekly basis, but a lot of us are just not conscious of what those foods are. We're just kind of doing it. And so instead, we wanna get crystal clear on what are our go-to foods. I know for me, it's chicken, it's salmon, and then I'll eat me a New York strip steak for protein. My vegetables are gonna be asparagus, Brussels sprouts, and maybe some spinach. And so you see how I just know what my go-tos are? You have go-tos too. You know, it may be 2 different proteins that you tend to eat on a daily and weekly basis. It may be 3 or 4, but you wanna have at least a solid 3. That's what I found. Like, just follow the rule of 3. And so your top 3 proteins, your top 3 vegetables, your top 3 starchy carbs, your top 3 fruits. And when you understand what these top 3 different foods are, now when it comes time for you to eat something, you're not really having to think so much about what am I gonna eat now? What am I gonna eat tomorrow? You know, man, I'm tired of eating chicken. Well, you can go eat some beef. Man, I'm tired of eating beef. Well, you can go eat some fish. But you have a specific type of fish that you prefer to eat. This is a way also to simplify the process and cut down on all the overwhelm and guessing about what you're gonna eat for your next meal or that next day. It just makes life a lot easier for you. And this has helped me out a ton. And so just look at this 1 and 3 as like your foundation. These are your foundational foods that you tend to go back to and eat on a weekly basis. It's not to say you can't eat outside of these foods, but if you want to get predictable results and you want to get consistent results, you got to have foods that you eat consistently and so that your body can respond consistently and predictably based on the food that you're eating and the amount that you eat. This was something that it took me a long time to realize this. Like I was never extremely overweight or anything like that, but you know, I used to just remember when the weekends would come around and my clothes just didn't fit the way I wanted them to. It was just subtle little changes in my body that were really inconsistent. But it wasn't until I started eating certain foods consistently and eating a certain amount of foods consistently is when I start to see my body have more of a consistent look going into the weekends, when you know your boy would hit the club, hit the bars, go out on dates and things like that. I just wanted my clothes to fit a certain way, and so that way I can feel happy going into the weekend. Number 3, tracking your calories and proteins. Now I know a lot of guys, they struggle a lot with dropping weight simply because they don't know how much they're eating. I get a lot of guys who hit me up, they say they're eating clean, they're eating healthy, but the weight still ain't coming off. And the reason why the weight ain't coming off is because they don't know how much they're really eating. And so you gotta track this stuff, man. And to simplify the process, you don't have to know all of your macros. You don't have to know your proteins, your carbs, and your fats. You can, that's great, but just starting out, if you just wanna drop body fat, all you really need to know is your daily calorie intake to drop body fat and your daily protein intake. Knowing these 2 numbers is what's gonna help you start dropping body fat. I've had clients who've dropped 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 plus pounds just knowing these 2 parameters to stay within. And when you track it, use an app like MyFitnessPal. That way you're not guessing on, man, am I gonna lose weight this week or am I gonna gain weight this week? Like, that's stressful, man. And it's frustrating if you're going through that roller coaster weight gain. I know it's frustrating. And so, you know, if you want to avoid that headache and discouragement, track your foods for at least 4 to 6 weeks and just get some clarity around what you're eating and how much of it you're eating. And so that way, after so long, you won't even have to track it no more. You won't even have to do those things because you can just kind of look at it. You can look at how much you're eating and you'll get a good gist of, okay, that's enough for me right there, because you know when I was tracking, I was eating right around that much. Especially if it's working. Like if what you're eating, the amount that you're eating is working and helping you get results, keep eating that amount. It's just like folks who playing sports and football and basketball. Whenever they start running plays that are working, they keep running those plays. You don't stop running the plays that are working. And so once you track this stuff for a good 4 to 6 weeks, you get the foundation, you understand how much you need to eat, and you're actually seeing progress, stick with it. And then from there, that's how you're gonna get consistent and predictable results. So just remember, guys, it's not about just eating healthy and clean. It's also about knowing how much you're eating. So track these things. This is a fundamental thing everybody needs to be aware of and know. It's almost like our finances. It's the same way we need to know certain things about finances. You need to understand your caloric intake, and so that way you can manage your energy. So that way you're not tired, you're not feeling lethargic, you're not going through metabolic diseases and things like that because you don't understand calories and protein intake. And so once you get to the point where you understand these 2 things, then once you're ready to, you can start stepping more into just understanding all of your macros as a whole, which I have a video on that too. I'll put it in the description below. But you gotta know your proteins, your carbs, your fats. But in the beginning, just figure out your calories, get your proteins dialed in, and be consistent with that. Number 4, stop having off days. Have reward meals. And so here's what I mean by this. A lot of guys, when they want to get in shape, they want to drop body fat, they hit it hard for a couple of weeks, and then they just get tired and burned out. And so they'll tend to have these off days where they'll just eat any and whatever. They just start eating bullshit all day long because they're just recovering, or they just want to take a break from whatever they're doing. And that's cool and all, but most times these guys find themselves gaining a lot of weight. They start ballooning back up because they just fell off the diet completely. They fell off the workout routine completely. And so instead of doing that, a better approach is to have a reward meal. Some guys call these cheat meals, but I call them reward meals because we earned it. And so instead of having a full cheat day, just have, if you go eat a pizza, eat a pizza. If you go eat a burger, eat a burger. If you go eat some tacos and drink some tequila with your boys, do that. But let it be a reward meal, so that way you're just not losing all of your results and sabotaging your progress. So this is how you're gonna be able to drop body fat and keep it off consistently. You just gotta be intentional with how you do it. And one of the best ways to do it, guys, is have reward meals instead of having off days. And number 5, flexible fasting. This is something that, a lot of people are not aware of. When you hear about, fasting, you hear about the 16-8 fast, you hear about the 5-2 fast, you hear about the OMAD fast, and there's a lot of different ways of fasting out here. But flexible fasting is basically, it's more so built around what works the best for you. Back when I stopped doing bodybuilding competitions, I found myself tired of eating 6 to 7 meals a day. And so I started jumping into doing fasting, and fasting really gave me a lot of structure. It gave me an opportunity to not eat so many meals throughout the day, which is one of the biggest reasons I did it, and not have to cook so much. But a lot of people think that fasting is a magic bullet for fat loss, and it's really not. The biggest thing about fasting that I love and that I see a lot of people like about it is that it gives you structure on when you're gonna start eating and when you're gonna stop eating. Because most times what happens to a lot of people is they're just eating all throughout the entire day, from when they wake up to when they go to sleep. They'll have, their breakfast, their lunch, their dinner, but they're snacking throughout the entire day. And snacking is one of the biggest things that causes a lot of people to gain weight, because they're mindlessly snacking. Like, you just get into a habit of just eating chips or eating a whole lot of nuts or whatever it is that most people snack on. And so when you fast, you're being intentional about the time frame that we're gonna be eating. This is one of the easiest ways to kind of cut down on all the snacking and just eating too much food, because you're not eating throughout the entire day. So you might be wondering, what is flexible fasting? So basically it's just, some days I'll have a 16-hour fasting window and an 8-hour eating window. But then other days, I'll have a 14-hour fasting window and a 10-hour eating window. And it just depends on how I'm feeling. It depends on my work schedule and, just those things in general. But basically, it gives me the flexibility to shift how long I want my fasting or eating window to be. Because some people, they'll, hear these trainers out here that'll say, hey, you gotta fast for 16 hours, you gotta fast for 18 hours, you gotta fast for a full day or 2 days, or all kind of crazy stuff. But what I like about flexible fasting is that you can make it into your own, and so that way you're not doing something where you're suffering because you're trying to do it the way that one trainer does it or your friend does it. You could do it the way that works the best for you and still get the results. And so with that said, guys, hopefully you found the video helpful. If you did, be sure to drop me a like, comment any topics you want me to share about in the future, and anything that you want to share just in general down in the comments. I always like to have that conversation going on down there. And then lastly, be sure to subscribe to the channel, baby. We out. Let's get to the action.